Come join us on our journey with the fairies and the women who saw them. Those who saw and 3 who didn't, the men rowing for dear life, with their blue jerkins and red bonnets putting in at the women's cliff. 3 of us who were picking dulse on the rocks at Coonshin, Nell and Nora and myself saw them. The other 3 saw no sign. Our heads were intent upon the earth as we picked away, our aprons full. I was the first to look up when we heard the creak of the oars as they pulled. I couldn't tell if there were 5 fellows or 6 in the skiff. There was one at the tiller who looked like death itself. I shouted out to look below under the cliff where, by my soul, at least 3 of them have seen them go. Through a place so narrow, only a seal might pass. And not before the crack of doom would we have found a trace of our unearthly, our phantom boat that we saw with our own eyes. The elders advised us to head home and say the rosary, for the same vision had often come to people out on the sea. 3 who saw and 3 who didn't. 3 who saw and 3 who didn't. The men rowing for dear life with their blue jerkins and red bonnets putting in at the women's cliff. True a hanik, true na vaka na fared hamadira, sakadi gorna kapani derga, alder stak of walana. Oh, Shinya vihu karkatulska kloka hinsa kurshin, misse is snäll is nora hanika true el niakarin. Vi organi chisko talva karkalina ruin law, misse is tushka darda gel, you will hold up arona madjara. Oh, give it a try. Aku hira dira sturch again a water a glash on mos la la lu is ista vekas ekata la lulla bod Hanukkah true it's the fuck on true lady akalan rocka a run one more time Extranuella Madden go Branina Mikarin Dama de Marda Bara Shelta Hanek Lema Dolakin Adurtna Shenna Linna Mythid Chop Balila Krona Raw Marga Vinica Lethid Amak Aluda Dani Anama Good morning. My name is Jeanne Nametz, and I am the Director of Religious Education here at USR. Today we celebrate, albeit a week later, all things Celtic through poetry, theater, music, and word to allow the Celtic life force to come alive and dwell among us. As we explore this spirituality, we explore Celtic traditions and practices. Seamus Heaney, the Irish poet and winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature, held up the truth of these old ways in a poem called The Cure of Troy, which was a call for a new identity in the face of the violence of the Troubles. He writes in part, "Hope for a great sea change on the far side of revenge. Believe that a further shore is reachable from here. Believe in miracles and cures and healing wells." So in these troubled times, we look to this ancient tradition for clues to finding a spiritual home within us. And as we do, I invite you to enter this world with verse from The Stolen Child by William Butler Yeats. "Come away, O human child, to the waters and the wild, with a fairy hand in hand, for the world's more full of weeping than you can understand." Fadir aspal awakatum gragial o kon akasachana dahanik meher bali ilar hanawad ochon Agasachano Kei anfar brashin irkran pasha Okam Agasachano Anei maknanir dawarin ochon agesokono Anei shenamakin adyam permetri ra Welcome, Agasachano, Noanei Aragus Astobla, Welcome, Agasachano, Onei Makin Ahaluim Nachwira Aukam Akasachano Eishtawarim Isnabi Bakaja Aukam Agasachano Isanei shin asur autriat natarni Okam Agasachano Noanei shin atla Ahui tridalorgial Ochon Agasachano Ochon Agasachano So we are about to be treated to a play that is based on an Irish mythic tale, very sacred, called Brigid and the Poor.
Long ago in Ireland, a few wealthy landowners owned great tracts of fertile land, while the poor were forced up into the rocky hills to eke out a living from the sparse soil. One year, the crops went so bad that the poor could barely scrape together an onion or carrot for their supper. Brigid went to one of the richest landowners and said,
"The harvest is grim this year, and the peasants need your help."
"Ah, Brigid, I'll think on it. But in truth, if the people would only work harder, they surely can fend for themselves."
A few weeks passed and the situation grew worse. Brigid went again to the landowner.
"The peasants need your help. They've taken to the hills to eat shamrocks and grass. What will you do for them?"
"Now, Brigid, don't get pushy. I'm a busy man. And why is it here that you're talking to me when you should be talking to the peasants about what they can do for themselves? I've no time for this. Now be gone with you!
Another week passed, and the situation became grave. Brigid went again to the landowner, and in a rage she
You've done nothing to help, and now the children are starving. I demand you get that for.
Well, Brigid, it couldn't be that bad. You don't like to be starved yourself. You're lacking for wearing clothes. 'Tis a fine wool cloak you wear on your back. Let it not be said I'm a stingy man. Here's what I'm going to do. You go out to the plain, choose any spot, spread your cloak on the ground, and the plot that it covers I'll donate to the poor.
Tax-free.
All right, tax-free. But don't ask for anything more.
So that day, Brigid and 3 of her sisters went out to the very center of the fertile plain. Each took hold of a corner of the cloak.
All right, now, girls, pull it hard.
Each of them took a step back, one to the north, one to the south, one to the east, and one to the west. And as they did, the cloak expanded. Tighter, 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 tighter. The cloak expanded until it covered the whole expanse of the plain. That afternoon, as usual, the landowner went up into his tower to look out and survey his lands. All right, everybody, lift up their shamrock. At first glance, it looked as if a green carpet covered the land. Then he saw it was the cloak of Brigid, grown in size and blanketed the land with bright green fertile grass that would yield food for the days to come.
The cloak!
The landowner is now seeing providence at work in the matter. That's providence with a capital P, mind you. When he saw Brigid striding up the walkway, he leaned out the window and cried,
Mercy, Brigid! I'll keep to my word. The whole of the plain belongs to the poor now, and I'll throw in 100 bags of oat seeds that they might prosper by it.
That's fine for tomorrow, but what will you do with them today?
For today? Why, a feast for today. A feast for all.
What sort of feast?
Why, a feast of stews and roots and compost and mashes and stuffings.
And bags to take home?
And why, of course, bags to take home.
Very well then, I'll spread the word!
Aye, Brigid, I'm sure you will. And I don't mind saying that if you spread the word as efficiently as you spread the cloak, with irony, not a soul would miss this feast.
and that is the story of Brigid and how she got land for the poor of Ireland.
So when I explore the sacred sites of Ireland, I experience it as my soul place. It was my Irish heritage that first led me to explore these places through the spiritual practice of walking the sacred sites. Armed with Irish ordnance maps, sometimes my only clues were from the shape of the land pictured on the map or the various names on these maps, pointing to ancient entities. such as standing stones, holy wells, and fairy forts. For over 25 years, I have returned over and over again to these sites, and through the passing of time, it has become clear why I am compelled to return each time. The topography of Ireland and its sacred sites become doorways into my inner life. Ireland's land shapes and sacred sites begin to align with challenges in my emotional and thought life. One begins to inform the other as both the outer and inner landscapes come together in a cohesive narrative of growth and discovery. Ireland's sacred sites, and this is true for all Celtic sites in Scotland, Wales, part of England, and France, are a blend of early Christian and pagan sites. And it is this spirituality that holds both traditions in one unified worldview. As Unitarian Universalists, our faith's sources are often described as animating energy. These forces are a living tradition of wisdom and spirituality drawn from sources as diverse as science, poetry, scripture, and personal experience, and they support and inform our faith's values. Now, the sixth source, say that 3 times fast, sixth source, celebrates the sacred circle of life and invites us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. So just as our story had Brigid wearing her cloak, I invite you to wear the cloak of a Celt and journey with me. Today, I want to share 3 Celtic practices that are available to all of us. And the first practice is anima loci, to ensoul both a physical place and a place in one's beingness. In earth-centered spiritualities, the doorway into the inner life is through nature. Nigel Pennick is a pagan in the Celtic tradition and the author of over 40 books on the spirituality of the Celtic peoples. He writes, Celtic tradition and beliefs are expressed spiritually through the land. The landscape is filled with places where spirit is present. Every time we experience it, this presence encourages us to make a creative act that personifies the place to us, thus creating a relationship with the land. This is the anima loci, the soul place. When this is acknowledged and honored, ensouled sacred places come into being. And I would add, this is Jeanne speaking, that this act of creating ensouled sacred places is woven into the fabric of art, music, mythology, spirituality, and everyday life in Celtic culture. Brigid and the Poor is a mythic story about creating anima loci, the ensoulment of the sacred. And in this beautiful tale, the ensoulment of place is created by an act of justice. The act of justice not only makes sacred the earth, but in doing so, it revitalizes it, creating green as far as the eye can see. There is so much suffering and inequity in this world. We, as UUs, are a people that believe that the kingdom of heaven is here on earth, and we work to make it so in all kinds of ways. When injustice is addressed, it releases energy. So like the story of Brigid and the Poor, we understand that justice-making and renewing energy go hand in hand. And so our first Celtic practice, anima loci, is to ensoul both a physical place and a place in one's beingness. The anima loci asks the question of us that the poet Rilke poses in this first line of an unnamed poem, and I love it so much I'm going to say it twice. Earth, isn't that what you want, to arise invisibly within us? Earth, isn't that what you want, to arise invisibly within us? The second spiritual practice I'll talk about is anam cara, listening to another's heart. Padraig Ó Tuama, an Irish poet and theologian, recently wrote a piece about St. Patrick. Patrick left a confessio, a document that tells part of the story of his life. And apparently, Patrick listened to his heart and was in touch with the rhythm of his soul through his dreams. Ó Tuama writes, dreams continued to guide him throughout his life. He paid attention to them and used them almost like a dialogue partner for his decisions. Roll over Carl Jung. Of course, we know him as the 5th century saint, instrumental in the creation of organizational form, the building of churches, schools of learning, and large monastic communities. But another aspect of the early Celtic spiritual community was the founding of small spiritual communities, and many communities sprang up, inspired by the ascetic way of the Middle East Essenes. And they led lives of contemplation and prayer in harsh, remote locations through Ireland and Scotland. In addition to leading contemplative lives, these communities pushed the boundaries of intentional community. The Irish poet and theologian John O'Donoghue spoke about spiritual community as having the capacity for compassionate presence, being soul friends to each other, being an anam cara, one who understands the other's heart. As most of you know, we had a series of cottage meetings to create a vision for USR. In the cottage meeting I attended, every single person spoke about recognizing USR as their spiritual home. Not that this is a perfect community, no place is, but it is a vibrant place to explore and give of oneself. John Morgan, author of Awakening the Soul, writes, people come to spiritual communities for connections to one another and to what is both transpersonal and transcendent. Meeting together in small groups becomes a way to offer both intimacy and ultimacy, never heard that word before, love it, in our midst. Here at USR, there are covenant groups, there is a meditation group, women's and men's groups, justice-making committees, and many other opportunities for anam cara, that is the intimacy of your heart to be understood. And the practice of anam cara asks us to increase our capacity to tolerate differences and personal quirks of others so we can truly understand another's heart. So the third Celtic practice is amron, allowing oneself to be sung by the universe. Amron is part of a Celtic indigenous medicine way. This practice is not for the faint-hearted, but it is the realm of the mystics and probably certain tribes of musicians. Can one empty oneself so completely through deep listening, meditation, and contemplation that one begins to allow the universe to sing through you, to create sound through you? This third Celtic practice asks us to empty ourselves, to sing home the suffering, and to stand up for all life. This summer, I am returning to Ireland for the first time post-COVID. I will walk sacred sites with my Celtic practices as my companions. I will greet the sacred places with my creative energies to create anima loci. I will give thanks for all of my soul places, Ireland, the Hudson Valley where I live, and this faith community. I will express my gratitude for the anam cara friends and family that tether me to this earth. And I will listen deeply for the universal song that wants to sing through me. Thank you for journeying with me and energizing this source of our faith. The sixth source, earth-centered spirituality, invites us to be spiritual explorers, cultivating a relationship with the earth, honoring the divine feminine in all things, exploring vital expressions of community, and creating time and space for our inner landscape to inform and guide us. So we get to the shamrock part. If you are interested in creating anima loci in your life, one way to do it, this installment of a place, we invite you to plant the shamrock seed paper, bet you didn't know it was seed paper, in a favorite special place of yours. Start it inside in a small pot, transfer later outside in a larger pot. Plant it just a 1/4 inch under fertile soil in warm sunlight and keep it damp. And here is a poem to send us on our way by the Nicaraguan poet Rosario Murillo. I am going to plant a heart in the earth, water it with love from a vein. I'm going to praise it with the push of muscle and care for it in the sound of all dimensions. I'm going to leave a heart in the earth so it may grow and flower, a heart that throbs with longing, that adores everything green, that will be the strength and nourishment of birds, that will be the sap of plants and mountains. So as with Brigid, may we continue to witness miraculous outcomes built from cumulative acts of justice and mercy. And just as Brigid expanded the whole of the plain, may our sphere of justice making continue to expand, creating goodwill, fairness, and equity for all. Many blessings, and may it be so. Amen.